So this video is going to be a follow-up to a few other videos and building on some things I've talked about before. You know, political fatigue and information and things like that. This is sort of a culmination of a few of those different ideas coalescing, as well as some current eventy stuff, because it is brought on, at least in part, due to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? Like, that is part of what sparked a lot of this frustration in this aspect for me. And that's the mass flooding of information. And hell, Barack Obama himself even said, you know, and a bit of a paraphrase here, but like the best way to do propaganda isn't to make somebody believe something, it's to flood the marketplace with so many different ideas that nobody knows what the hell to think, right? And I've talked about, you know, is this person a Fed? Is this person a Fed? Stuff like that, right? And I've seen a pretty wide range of theories on the whole Charlie Kirk thing, like, and I have my own share too, to be fair. But I've seen stuff ranging from people trying to say it was AI, people trying to say it was like a fucking, like, blood squib. Like, there's some crazy shit I've seen that I don't think. But there's a lot of other stuff, you know, foreign involvement, whether or not that's a thing. And then, of course, there's just on the surface level, the insanity of the types of deranged people we have in this country. And there's a lot of people saying all sorts of crazy things on this, right? And that's not really, like, what they're saying isn't necessarily the point of this video. I already kind of did an idea, or I already did kind of a stream talking about all the different theories and ideas out there. But it's interesting, at this point, to see Nick Fuentes saying it's definitely not Israel, and Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson saying it is. And again, there's always the back and forth of these people all calling each other feds. And again, I've seen evidence for all of that. Like, I've seen evidence both ways on all of them. So it's like, there's stuff with that can be really frustrating too. But it's like, it's really hard to tell who's, like, being genuine, who's doing this, who's grifting on it. And I don't like that term, but who's being genuine, who's trying to use this for political gain and motivation. And this is a random thoughts, but it's probably going to be less edited. I'm not going to put music over the top or anything like that, most likely. But as I've said, there's a lot of things that don't add up to me, and I have my own theories and stuff. But it is interesting to see all the different arguments and all the different people saying all this different stuff, and it's really frustrating. And that just comes back to everything. It starts making you question, like, every major, like, tragedy in recent years. And it just makes you think, oh, well, that's kind of odd. What's going on with that? And there's a lot of shit in this that just screams psyop to me, which is why I have my own opinions on it. And again, I'm not even sure 100% what I think. And there's also interesting stuff, like the fucking shooter, the letter that he wrote to his trans boyfriend. It just seems like it just seems like tailor-made to exonerate him from it. To basically say, oh, no, you didn't know. It's like, but you literally said you were engraving bullets, and he saw you engraving bullets. That's kind of odd, right? Like, it reminds me of that scene in Breaking Bad where Walter White tells Skyler to make up some cock and bull story of him breaking in and saying he wanted breakfast or something. And also, like, it's also kind of reminds me of, like, when Walter White, again, I'm using Breaking Bad as an example for both of these, but it's, like, you'll see what I mean. Like, when Walter White calls up Skyler and he's like, you never listen to me, you bitch! You don't know anything about what I'm doing. Because he does that call just to make it seem like Skyler's not involved at all, right? And that's a lot of what this letter seems to ring true to. And then there's the fact that the guy who they first detained has a history of showing up at these tragic events and having similar encounters and things happen. So this guy seems like he was a distraction, like an intentional planted distraction. And this works with several different theories, right? This works with the foreign involvement theory as well as the organized tranny cult theory, you know? And the thing at the end of the day is no matter whatever's going on, whoever did this, like whoever's involved, the purpose is clear: to cause fear, panic, and escalation, to push us to be violent, right? To push violence. Like, that's clearly what's going on here. And I'm going to do a whole other video talking about the comedians and shit getting fired, because fuck them. But there's a whole thing we'll get into with that. Again, that's going to be a separate video. Maybe I'll record later tonight or tomorrow. We'll see. But a lot of people are tired of playing the games by the left's rules and not not saying or doing anything, and just like trying to be the better man when, again, if you're giving yourself a tactical disadvantage and not playing by their rules, if someone's cheating and the other one's insisting we play by the rules, it's a whole problem. And it's crazy just how like much this stuff is escalated. And again, I've seen all sorts of different theories from widely different ranging things. But again, it's hardly just this issue. As I said, I was already showing this fatigue in a previous episode of Random Thoughts, right? Where I was talking about, like the beatings will continue until morale improves, is what I titled it, I believe. It's just really frustrating, and a lot of it is like cult of personality stuff. Like, if someone sees something as perceived as their guy, then they say it's true or not. It's like when Trump was doing all the stuff in Iran, and a lot of people were like defending it, saying, "Oh, but he's our guy," etc., right? And that's the thing is, it's basically become team sports where it's like a lot of people don't even take it seriously. It's just like the modern day team sports, right? And there's, again, I think it is better to like have a stance and an opinion and stuff like that. But a lot of people are doing this as a game. It's a game to a lot of these people. When it's reality, it's society, it's the world. And people are treating it like it's a game of like Fortnite or some shit. Or a fucking football game, one team versus another team. But again, that's part of the problem with this whole cult of personality that everybody... Because the thing is, like, granted, there's plenty of, like, political figures, pundits, and commentators that I like or dislike, right? But that's the problem is it becomes just that, and people like to stick to people and put all their trust into them. And there's not any pundit that I fully trust, because there's a lot of ones that have really disappointed me lately, and a lot of ones that have also made me, like, be like, what the hell's going on with all this? Because there's a lot of people I see who will, just accept what they're told on. And again, this isn't just talking about this issue. I'm kind of moving away from that now. I'm talking more in general terms. There's a lot of problems with people just blindly accepting what they're told and thinking it's impossible that anything crazy could happen, when a lot of the time there's a lot of little pieces that can easily be connected. Now, granted, I do think there's a danger in connecting the dots when there's not dots to connect, but at the same time, sometimes there are dots, and they're pretty easy to connect. But the part that makes it really frustrating is, why are some of these people saying the things they're saying? And, there's things that are fishy about a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. For instance, Candace Owens has this whole big epic story about this video she saw and this back and forth she had with this person when she has no evidence of any of this. But at the same time, you got Nick Fuentes all of a sudden acting like he's sure it couldn't have any Israeli involvement, and acting super sure, which is super uncharacteristic, because there's a lot of things that are fishy. Now, granted, there are a lot of people who are going back and finding old clips and trying to use them as if they're more recent. But the thing is, there are patterns and there are things that are noticeable. And again, I don't know what to fucking make of all of it. I'm going to be perfectly honest. There's a lot of stuff that's really frustrating and contradictory. And again, I've never been a fan of Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens per se. Like, I've watched a little bit of both of them here and there. I've been watching more Fuentes stuff as of recently, admittedly. I've been enjoying some of his stuff and some of his takes, but at the same time, I've always had my issues with him. There's always been a little bit of things that I didn't like, but I don't necessarily dislike the guy either. And there are things I like about him, and I have been watching him a lot more. So this is really weird to see this uncharacteristic spin, where he's all of a sudden saying, oh, it definitely can't be, and sort of arguing with the audience. Now, I do think it's good if he is taking a step back and saying, look, let's not let our biases come forth and start connecting dots that aren't there. But at the same time, he just seems almost so sure of it. Like, I don't know. Again, whether he's a Fed, Tucker Carlson's a Fed, I don't know. Because here's the thing. Again, I've started to like him more with some of the stuff I've seen recently. I'm not going to lie. I like Tucker Carlson to a degree, too. So, like, when they had that sort of back and forth, again, I don't really fully trust any of them. Because there's always things that are off. Because, Tucker Carlson has clearly either, he's... The most charitable explanation you can give is he forgot that he had talked about his dad being in the CIA before, and now he's trying to, act like he didn't know because he's worried what people will think. But that just makes him look so... And again, that's the most charitable explanation. Realistically, he definitely had knowledge before, and it gets really frustrating. It's like, can you trust this guy? Is this guy a Fed? Is this guy a Fed? And at the end of the day, I don't like to go into this whole cult of personality thing, but it is really hard to keep up with anything while all these different narratives are being pushed. And everyone always pushes a narrative. Whenever there's a mass shooting, people push narratives. Whenever there's, you know, a terrorist attack, people push narratives. Whenever there's anything, people do push narratives. And so there's a lot of frustration, and there's, like, you know, it's still pretty recent. We're still kind of in the heat of the moment. It's only been a little over a week since it happened. But again, I don't know what to think on a lot of things. Again, I think that there's more to it than we're being told. I think foreign involvement is likely just due to some recent events. But at the same time, a lot of this stuff is circumstantial too, and I'll fully acknowledge that. But at the same time, there gets to a point where it just gets frustrating to try and keep up with everything. There's just so much being said. And again, the whole people trying to, like, say, oh, well, I trust my guy, oh, I trust my guy. Like, there's still plenty of people that have had different takes on more current events that I still like, that I've had disagreements and problems with. Like, Razorfist and John Doyle I like a lot. And both of them have been, like, really, like, running defense for Trump on, like, Iran and, like, the Epstein list. And, like, those guys I don't think are doing it in bad faith. I just think they're caught up in cult of personality, and it really disappoints me. But at the same time, there are other people on the other side who weaponize these things in different ways. And there's, again, so much frustration. And I guess really the main takeaway that I would have, and the key message and point of this, is that, you know, people are going to lie to you. Humans are fallible. People are going to get shit wrong. And there are people with malicious motivations out there. And a lot of things are trying to push things in a certain way. And there are different people, both in this country and across the world, that are, like, you know, always plotting and causing problems. So at the end of the day, because human beings are fallible, the real key message is you have to follow ideas and not people.